three-dimensional.
So this is the master plan, the conceptual. It's a conceptual plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to me, two takeaways as we move forward and think deep thoughts about what our commissions were doing 8 to 10 years ago. This is a road, and this is commercial development, which can feed into our town's fiscal pipeline.
Right. That was part of the tax base that made the plan work.
So if that building was Costco to the left of where you are, that, and in the, some of the things that we've read, there were also a mini plan, so to speak, of additional commercial spaces for junior stores, as they called it in that report, that Frank sent to us today. Where are those in reference to all of, is that trees and?
Right now, it's these. This here's a junior store. Here's a junior store. Some slightly larger ones here, and all of these are smaller shops.
And all of that white with the little red dots in it, what is that?
White with the red dot. Where,
Yes, right there. No, come down a little bit, right
here,
there.
that's
What's
parking
the-
lot
Those are parking lots, okay.
associated with the store. So all the white areas, are parking lots.
All right.
Is the road, is that the current
That-
place they're going to have the road?
That's where the proposed road will
Okay.
be, presumably.
What road is that?
Right now, it's East Society Road. So what I'm going to go back, just minimize that for a second. There we go. So here's the plan. So this is what. Yeah, I gotta expand that. So just to kind of give you some background, right now, East Society Road, which off of this map had ended probably a good half a mile, maybe a little less. The pavement just ended. The right-of-way actually extended all the way down to here. So the developer, on their dime, has extended the road and then put a cul-de-sac in, and this cul-de-sac will be deeded over to the town as town road.
That's a cul-de-sac other than a turnaround?
Yeah, this is a roundabout.
Roundabout.
Right.
Yep.
Not
So
a
this
cul-de-sac.
roundabout, you go around, and then from this point up this road, this is all private drive. So the intent here is that from this roundabout, this road will be extended up to this roundabout. Now this here is an emergency access drive, which is necessary until this spine road actually goes through. But then from this roundabout, it will extend across the land here, and then further northeast, it'll cross the Patagonia River.
I have a question. The green, those are the wetlands.
So the solid green mustard green color
Right.
Yeah.
is the wetland.
How are they getting roads across that and over here through it?
So they'll be getting wetland permits. They still haven't obtained those. They're currently working with the Army Corps of Engineers, specifically as it relates to the crossing over the Patagonia River.
And just to orient us on why the Army Corps is involved, it's over 5,000 square feet
Well,
or something.
there's a
there's bar.
there's a 5,000 square foot threshold of disturbance. So if they disturb more than 5,000 square feet of wetlands or water course, they automatically
is it
need
the area
a
of operation, or is it the square footage of the road?
operation. So
Okay.
within the federally defined wetland area, which is different than how Connecticut defines a wetland. If they disturb more than 5,000 square feet, they need to get a Category 1 permit and a 401 water quality permit from the state DEP. So if they disturb less than that, they're not exceeding any thresholds. It saves them a lot of engineering and time per se, but either way, they're still working on that. They have not yet applied to the local inland wetland agency for those permits, but they have full intentions to do so.
Getting back to my original question, where was the breach on this project?
So the massive breach was right over here. So the purple areas on this map are vernal pools. Right here at this little bump out, this is the sewer pump station. This vernal pool, unfortunately, was the victim of discharge of, thankfully, clean water.
With chlorine in it?
Chlorinated water. They estimated nearly 1 million gallons of water was lost. The road here got washed out and basically inundated this vernal pool. So to date, the applicant immediately began excavation of that material and subsequently has revegetated with a scrub shrub understory type vegetation. The area has been stabilized, and it appears that most likely the next Inland Wetland Agency meeting, they'll be able to release the cease and correct order.
Okay, so as of now, it still exists?
The vernal pool has been restored.
No, the order.
The order is still on the land records yet, has not been lifted.
Good point, John. So another thing I just want to point out about what we're looking at there, naturally this was a map composed by the developer, but I just want to call attention to all the topography that's there. We're dealing with
What I describe is this is the era that we're living in now. Most of our developments are happening on slopes. We're seeing slopes come up more and more. So
Yes.
this is a perfect example of.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, with that said, again, back in 2000, when the town moved forward with adopting this zoning regulation for the Gateway Plan Development District and the district itself, the intent was to spur economic growth. And I believe, in I think in your packets last time, had a letter that I received from Mr. Harris representing the applicant, who indicated in page 61 of our POCD, he quotes that residential and commercial growth have a symbiotic relationship, noting that residential growth creates the critical customer base to encourage new commercial development.
So, just with respect to that, there's also a part of our POCD which describes, it quantifies how much of our commercial dollars are spent in town versus out of town. And I want to say that number off the top of my head is like, the average would be $8,000 or something a year, and East Lyme has the commercial to sustain $5,000. There was a ratio to. It was, the conclusion was this town has room for more commercial. Most people who live here do their shopping in a different town.
Okay, I'd have to research that to get the
I think it's
specifics on those
chapter 4.
numbers.
But I just wanted to comment on that because the idea that residential provides the climate for commercial to flourish in, that condition should have already been met by our town. We're saturated with residential. We should be ripe for commercial yesterday, my opinion.
Okay.
The question, is it customary for an applicant to apply for something when there's a cease and correct? Is this the normal procedure? Before they fix something, they're asking for something else?
I would say that it would probably behoove them not to apply for a wetland permit from the local.
Yeah, they haven't
From the
done
local,
that.
they haven't done that. They're not required to, because right now they're just applying for a text amendment, which wouldn't be neither here nor there in terms of their site development.
But if you don't have the basics behind you, I just think they're putting the cart before the horse, the whole.
Well, in terms of not having their wetland permits for the other crossings, that's just a matter of timing. I don't know, in terms of a text amendment versus a site development plan application, if they were applying for additional, They're applying for a text amendment to allow for additional buildings. If that amendment gets approved and adopted, then they're going to come back and apply for additional units and actually get a site development plan approval from the zoning commission. So that would be the time in which, if the zoning commission would say, okay, do you have wetland permits for these additional buildings? Do you need them for the additional buildings?
Right.
Is there anything outstanding? And that is where I think the applicant, because I do believe where they want to put the additional buildings, which is, they would want to add one more here and then put approximately 3, I think, on this side of where the road would go. So you'd have one more building where the hand is, and then right here, and then on the easterly side of the proposed spine road, you would have 3 more buildings,
But I
which
think it's
fall
important.
within the upland review area, and therefore will require wetland permitting. And they're anticipating that at the next wetland meeting, that the commission will be able to release the cease and correct order. And that issue having been resolved would give them a, quote, clean bill of health.
But what if all the wetland, or there's a problem with their application, they haven't even applied for it yet? Then it's
Well,
going to be all changed around again?
In terms of their zoning application, in order for the zoning commission to grant a permit, they're going to need to get a review of some sort, or at least comment or demonstrate that they don't need a wetland permit. By statute, zoning can't issue a permit unless wetlands has signed off.
But this is a good point, because the sequential aspect of it means we will be making our deliberations
Twice.
and making our report without a site plan
Right, twice.
for this specific
Planning commission,
plan.
you're going to be looking at it as for a, you're not even going to, the planning commission wouldn't even look at a site plan.
Exactly, but I mean, when I say we're going to go on Thursday, we're going to hear zoning's
Oh.
presentation. Zoning is going to tell us the history. They're not going to talk about this specific new 120 units, and they are not going to show us, or zoning, a site plan of how it all comes together.
They should not be,
They're
no.
going to appeal purely on the conceptual basis of, this is the gateway zone,
This is the purpose of the zone.
and we're just trying to scratch 280 and write 400. And then his design team will come up with a design that is feasible.
Right, but
within
they're
Can
those regs.
I ask a question?
so they, until zoning gets into their public hearing, will they talk about the extra 120 units and scratching the 280 with 400 and coming up with that justification?
Right.
So that's why I'm able to talk about it now, because it's being referred.
Do I remember correctly that the reason why they got to do this in the first place is that we didn't really have the expertise to write the zoning regs in that gateway type environment, so we kind of let them give them to us? Didn't we talk about that in the last meeting? Something to that effect?
I don't know if it was the town not necessarily having the expertise, because at the time the town had a planner.
Yeah.
The town also had a zoning official. It may be that the town was interested in having a planned development district, and there just happened to be a developer who was willing to work with the town in crafting a regulation and saying, this is what would work for us. Would it work for you?
Right, so they kind of drove the bus on that. We had to approve it, but they kind
Right,
of developed it.
because they have a financial plan.
Right.
They said that we need X amount of units to break even here. We need X to make a profit, and we need so many to make this happen. So that's-
So they came up with the 280 units in the first go-round.
they always ask for 400.
Okay.
So all their studies, the traffic studies, the economic impact, was based on 400 units. Also, they took a conservative approach, saying those units were going to be based on owner-occupied. The development you have behind you is no longer owner-occupied, but
rental.
rentals.
Yeah. So why did we decide to cut them down to 280? What was our logic at that time? Does anybody?
The best understanding that I have in talking with Mr. Harris and Mr. Mulholland was that the town at the time had concerns of the impact of that residential development at 400. never having seen a development of this magnitude,
Mhm.
that the town was just concerned that, we can't necessarily determine what will the impact be. You're telling us it's going to be X, but it could be Y. So I think they just proposed cautiously ahead and chose the 280.
Okay.
So this is a lot, and we're gonna have the opportunity to educate ourselves based on what is presented at zoning Thursday. However, I wanna come back to Frank's, questions and give Mr. Gaishel, and this would be the format. If Frank has brought up some questions and issues, Mr. Gaishel's done the research. If we have specific questions tonight or something comes to you, the process will be to email Gary and say, hey, I want to, can you look into this for me, explain this to me, and then at our next meeting after the Thursday meeting, the 29th, we'll deliberate on it all.
So I guess hopefully that this addresses Frank's first question, getting at least a plan in front of us to look at and understanding the concept. Number 2 was that the initial development, the intent was 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and that his understanding now is that there possibly a number of 3 bedroom units.
Right.
Now,
There
we
are.
talked with Mr. Harris, and Mr. Mulholland indicated, well, I believe they're selling those as 2 bedroom units with a den. So we did inquire, and I said, well, if that's the case, I mean, do those rooms qualify as bedrooms, or are they qualify as a den or some additional space to the unit?
And who on our team makes that call?
I believe
Bill Mulholland.
Mr. Mulholland is the zoning official.
Not Joe Smith as a bedroom issue? Because Les Light will care about bedrooms too.
As it pertains to the septic,
Yeah.
this is on sewer.
Huh?
So, that, and that's another issue to talk about briefly. But so,
Gary, can I just interrupt you 1 minute, please?
Yep.
On the questions, you're going back to 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. They do advertise it, and you do, when you go there, they do tell you 3. A 3rd bedroom would consist of a window and a closet. You can call it anything you want, but it's still a bedroom.
fair enough.
Thank you. Good point.
So in terms of approved plans, I mean, we have the full set of drawings. If you want the CAD drawings, I can provide those to you. These conceptual drawings. The one on your right is not really a conceptual, but an approved plan. So this is the build out as if you drive up there today, this is what you would see. Minus this roundabout here has not yet been paved. I suspect they'll pave it within the next month or 2. They've got, I believe, 2 buildings left to be CO'd, and then they're done with this phase of this construction. Minus they have to put in a pool with the clubhouse here. As I stated before, there's this at the end of this roundabout, there's the emergency access here. This access reaches all the way out to 161. If I minimize this and I open up utility access, we can enlarge that. So from the cul-de-sac, or I'm sorry, the roundabout, you come down this relatively steep emergency access drive. There'll be a detention pond here, which they're currently grading. The vernal pool that we mentioned earlier that was impacted by the breach. You cross the Patagonia River here at a bridge, and on out to Route 85. I'm sorry, not Route 161. I will note that the public infrastructure, the water, the sewer, and gas run up this emergency access to the site.
And is that emergency access serviceable right now? If fire trucks needed to get up there, would they be able to that occupied development?
Currently, yes.
Is that the same footprint that the road would go on, or there would be a different road?
This would be a different road. So
Okay.
this would always remain an emergency access
Okay.
/ utility access. The primary road will split off here and head in this direction. So I think if I go back to the master plan. So that you have a roundabout here, and then another roundabout somewhere about here, and then and emergency access actually runs along 95 this way, up to probably in this area.
Gary, the road that comes out on to where the pool is and where you would be behind the driving range and the old shack and the gas, whatever those electric things are, that road comes out of there onto Flanders, or
Correct.
Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, you need to make a left or a right to get out. Is that the road that you're talking about?
That road there is currently the emergency access.
That's the road?
Yes, that's currently the emergency access to this site.
So then, on that, when this is all said and done, that will only be used as an emergency and not as an in and out for the development.
Correct. Well, now I'm gonna have to show you here the ultimate plan here.
And can I just ask, is that because there's a gate? Is that because there's a post? Is that because the fire department has the thing they move, or we're?
It'll
It's-
be gated,
Okay.
so the fire
So you-
will have keys to that gate. It's
And
usually
light.
a crash gate, but it should crash right through it.
Okay.
So with that said, in terms of the Route 161 and 95 overpass, there's a plan, and I met with DOT, Mr. Mulholland, the town engineer, several weeks back, and unfortunately, I don't have this to put up on the screen, but this is the proposed interchange.
Oh.
So what happens here is the road that you see now will remain. On the other side of the electrical substation, where the shack is, you're going to have,
Another road?
it's gonna be, what's it, 1, 2, almost 6 lanes coming in and out of there. So you're gonna have exiting.
Wait.
Start off by showing
yeah.
exit 74 and all that.
Right.
So
Wait a minute.
here's the existing exit 74. You take that sharp turn here.
Mhm.
What they're gonna propose to do is they're gonna increase the turn radius. You're gonna come out here. This blue square is roughly where Costco will be. You'll come down this road here, right out to the intersection with 161. So you're gonna have people turning left, turning right here. And then you have these 2 lanes which are turning right into it.
All right, you had just said prior to that it would be on the other side of where the shack and the driving range is. Does that mean that's coming out, the driving range and the shack
Cuts
are
right-
now incorporated into all of this? Because at one point it wasn't.
Yes, well, even in that proposed plan, this entrance is in the same location.
And they have.
And they have that approved that they
They have-
can,
Well, what will happen here is as Costco gets built and as the funds are secured for the on and off ramps and the highway interchange, the state will come in and they'll do a taking. And the state will force this issue.
So.
And the state DOT said this is their top priority project right now, is that if Costco comes, this all has to happen.
so we don't get killed on 95.
No, we'll still get killed on 95.
There you go.
Getting off will be safe. But.
Right.
Well,
The
no,
road itself.
getting on improves, because now you'll
Yeah,
you'll
it's a
come to
larger,
this
it's a larger
light,
turn, sure.
you'll run down here, and then you'll have more of a run up to
Right.
accelerate. Coming off the highway, the off ramp also gets realigned. Basically, is shifted over almost 100 feet from where it is now. You'll come to a light. The intersection with Starbucks gets completely realigned. If you look at this plan closely, you're gonna
Oh,
have
when
to go
is
up
this
King Arthur,
happening?
take a left, and then go in.
Question. We're going to need to see a copy of that. We're going to all need to review it.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm
And then-
almost compelled to say we should do a site walk because this is such a big deal.
Site, we're gonna walk on the road.
No,
Yeah.
I just mean go through the game. But aside from this sketch, is there any quantities that we can sink our teeth into? Did they say this is 2 off ramps and on ramps?
It's 4.
Did they say
Yeah, it's 4.
4 ramps?
You got
Are they
off and on,
saying
north,
this is
off
going to
and on,
take
south.
3 years and cost $30 million? Have they even tried to
Quantify the
quantify it? Because to me, that looks like one of the biggest road jobs I've ever seen.
It's large, but
4 off ramps?
Think of the money they spend in Fairfield County on the highway and the bridge there.
Is it, it's not gonna make anything any safer, that's for sure.
Actually, that's New Haven, that's not even in Fairfield County, right? It's still New Haven, it's a Q bridge. I mean, the money that's went into that project, I mean, in terms of, and with the number of accidents, I mean, looking at the news and kind of looking at the woes that the state is facing with I-95 and the traffic increases every year, I think the pressure is on the state to do something. This would alleviate one major concern that's identified in the regional transportation plan as a priority project
So that's a
Which-
DOT.
initiative.
What major concern would that eliminate?
The number of accidents at exit 74.
Really? Really?
That's-
They can do that? The
Well,
DOT?
if you provide a safer approaches, engineering wise,
No, but if we still provide it, they will come.
well, yeah,
Well,
you
you can't have Costco
No,
without
but you
those
can't.
changes because it's not sufficient now.
But they didn't,
So if you
to
build Costco,
justify
you
the
would-
dollar spent.
right.
I think what the state is saying is that the project is large enough economically. It's going to generate, based on the economic impact, roughly $1.7 million in tax revenues annually.
Right, a year.
So those numbers, in terms of our town, southeastern Connecticut, are significant, and would, also justify to the state that these infrastructure projects are necessary. Not to mention, I think there's a good chunk of the cost here is being bared by the developer. We have to remember that too.
I read an article that said the plan for I-95 is an extra lane with fewer drivers. Is the extra lane shown here? Is that on their drawing? Or is that phase?
Yeah, but the extra lane
The-
is only coming between exit 70 and exit 70.
No, they're
That
still
was in
showing.
paper.
Oh, where is the third lane? I thought it was gonna go from here to Stones.
No, the
No,
other way.
the other, right.
Ah.
It was-
Interestingly, they do show.
Are they
did-
showing I-95
they did show it.
as 6 lanes?
It's hard to say exactly. I see 3 lanes in the southbound.
Because that means they'd be redoing all the ramps and the overpass.
From 70.
They are.
From
Wow,
70,
yeah.
So-
from
so-
70 to,
so-
I'm sorry.
So what is
So
the
the over
time horizon on
the
that?
over.
Exit 70 to exit
It's
74?
basically probably in the next 10 years.
Oh, man.
I mean, if Costco seriously, if they're seriously interested, and they come and they apply for permits and they get approved and they start breaking ground, then this work is going to have to happen.
Is there a place we
You
can
know,
compare that to? The DOT says, I know there's a lot of lines and lanes. It's just like what we did in X town. Where did they do 4 ramps for
At
a
one
big
time?
box store?
How about Waterford, exit 81? All of that was short merge lanes, when I lived right there, and that was 25 years ago. But it took a couple of years to get it done, but all of those exchanges changed.
Though, I mean, aside from being able to accommodate the traffic that's going to be generated as a result of this development, the overpasses, the abutments are going to get widened, which will also accommodate pedestrian access, which is also a benefit. So, in addition to the additional lane that you'll pick up for left and right hand turns onto the, I guess they call it it's really not the on ramp, but onto this road.
Does that mean you won't get off the exit and drive into the wall if you go straight?
Right.
Just asking.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gary, how is that gonna affect local traffic? Living at the north end of town, how
So
am I gonna get downtown Niantic? Or come here?
you're going to continue on 161. Now, the key to this is this spine road. Based on the traffic consultants, the traffic report that was submitted, is that the road here, that this spine road that runs through here, actually alleviates a good portion of the traffic on Route 161. So the theory is that cars will be getting back on the on-ramp and heading south or northbound. They'll be following this road. If they're going southbound, they'll just follow this road right through and pick up the highway at the next exit down. So,
Well, that's like Cross Road in Waterford, right? It's like a frontage road.
it will act similar to that, yes.
It connects from one exit to the next exit of the street.
It's the Parkway North and Parkway South.
Yeah.
Crossroads perpendicular.
For the record, could you identify that drawing and the date on when you prepared it?
I believe this was prepared by DOT. The title is Interchange. They wrote 57 I-95 over Route 161, Alternative 2B, DOT Project Development Unit. And there's no date on it. they just handed us this 11 by 17.
So to the point about alleviating traffic on 161, there's currently, our town is oriented north-south, and you can go up 161. You can only kind of cross west on the Post Road, and then you go down to like Society Road. So you're saying this is going to be the new east-west connection from kind of Flanders all the way over to the Society Road exit.
Right.
So people will be, it's going to change the whole way the town works.
Right. You're going to increase the number of ways you can get east-west. And it again, in theory, you're going to improve traffic flow throughout town.
Okay, just as a point of reference, there's a traffic study sized for 400 units that says what is in place is adequate. At the same time, DOT is saying if this development goes through, we're going to have to build 4 new ramps and add a lane to 95.
They're concerned with all the additional commercial, not so much the Costco.
The junior Costco's.
Right. All of this development. The Costco by itself does not necessarily
Junior
require the spine road to go in. It's all of this additional commercial development that's going to exacerbate the amount of traffic.
And the number of $1.7 million that would be added to the grand list, that's an annual number of tax revenue. Is that for the entire Gateway District? Is that for the residential? Is that for the commercial? Because as I would approach it now, we should already have a number of tax revenue that the residential has provided, right? They've sold the units, they're on the tax rolls. So we can say right now with the 280 units, roughly, there's this number in tax revenue. And then this commercial component would add a additional quantity to that. And I'm curious, which one is that 1.7 mil?
The total of both the residential and commercial.
Okay, so
As it is-
a bite of
as
it
it
has
is
already
now.
been, yeah, so
As it is now.
280 units times, we don't tax the commercial as much as we do the residential. Is there a quick way, or maybe that's something that you could follow up for me, Mr. Gaishel? What percentage of that have we already built?
Well, I can tell you that currently, each building currently is assessed at $50,000. There are 10 buildings. Now they're proposing another 120 units, approximately 4.5 buildings. They're asking essentially for 4, 'cause that's in their plan. Tax that at $50,000. You know, that kind of puts into perspective.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to see it written down, but
Yeah, right.
let's get those numbers out because, the ends justify the means in a perfect way, but that's something that's subject to our judgment. This has been very helpful. I just want to, can we circle back to that den thing? Who told you that there's dens, 2 in a den versus that? Where are we getting that information?
On the floor plans that they hand out, I've taken clients through.
Okay.
If I have them, I'll email them to you, but they hand out floor plans. They have names for every different layout.
Okay.
So I'll try to get those and email them
So
to you.
is
No,
this,
no,
is
it's
this
not the names of
den,
the sections and the amount of rooms in each unit. That's what we're asking, that's what.
Yeah,
why
I think there are
doing
2 bedrooms in a den, but people use them as bedrooms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
so they've always called it a den.
But they talk about them as being bedrooms when you're bringing clients.
Okay.
well, that's what I want
Right.
to drill down on, because if the same person is saying to prospective buyers, it's a bedroom,
Right.
and then when at town hall, they go, well, it's actually a den.
You're right.
That's something that we need to clarify, because,
It speaks to density.
We have
and-
to be-
and taxing all the utilities and everything else.
and we have to have command of the language, or else everyone's gonna get lost.
Right.
I'm familiar, like you said, Rita, if it's got a window and a closet,
Yeah,
That's
but
better.
they-
You'll
but
hear
they
people
do
say,
hold.
it's a 5-foot opening, and there's no
Yeah, I know.
door, so it's clearly a den, but,
No, but when you go there and you look at all of the units and they show you, they do say
oh,
three-bedrooms.
yeah, I mean, that,
And those are the corner units. It seems to be the way it works out, it's all of the corner units on the buildings that are now occupied. For rentals, do it that way, and the truth of it is that when you see it, the units themselves aren't, I mean, they're pretty, but there's no closet space, or there is very, very minimal, and you have to pay for a garage. It's like, and then you're walking up 3 flights of stairs with your groceries. There you go.
right on.
Well, maybe we should also ask Mr. Gagel to let us know, there must be an assessment. What does the assessor call the different apartments, right?
Correct.
For purposes of taxation, because it is the underlying, to me, issue is the opportunity for this to be a different service requirement community, particularly for our school district, than our planning commission and zoning commission and board of selectmen 8 years ago expected the development to be based upon the plan. And when you're not paying $10,000 in taxes a year on your abode, and one kid consumes that or more, then it's a burden that we did not see when we considered the economic viability of the balance between commercial and residential. So that's pretty important, and I don't know when it comes out, but at some point, we all have to be acting in good faith. I'm not sure if we're calling a den a bedroom and altering what we call it based upon who we're speaking to, but that's going on. The reality is the economic burden that a 3-bedroom creates is more difficult to offset the commercial. And we're still pointing at a part and development, commercial development on it that I'm not sure that the developer owns anymore. Are we doing that as we look at this? Maybe I'm missing the point.
Good point,
Is this
Frank.
owned by the developer?
No,
Do they have an option on it?
they currently do not. I
So
believe,
the commercial needs to offset the residential cost, and that's a point that I know the attorney's letter was very strong attempting to make that point, but I don't think it, personally, the hearings are progressing and so forth, but I don't think the point was made by that well-worded document.
in my discussion with him today, what he has indicated, in response to that, he indicated that there are approximately net new kids in the school are 5, which is 25% less than the study considered. They were anticipating 50 to 58 based on the study, as I said, they would be owner occupied. But because these are rentals,
I'm
That-
sure
he-
somebody
he's-
in the school district can dig into that with their student records.
so
Who did that study?
this study was prepared by the Turner Miller Group for the Town of East Lyme Board of Selectmen.
When was that done?
That was done in March 5th, 2008.
They don't own that.
Okay.
Who owns that? Who's paying taxes on that
Say that-
property?
Just to clarify, Gary.
Right.
Is the junior
Costco.
boxes,
Well, that
they
pro-
don't have the option on, do they have the property do they own the property for the Costco?
Yes, they own the property for the. So
But
the current KGI development and Conover own the property for the Costco as well as the residential.
I guess what we'd like to.
And the school, and wait, and the smaller stores, they
No.
own.
No.
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 So
Then who
all.
owns that?
A golf course?
Well, just, Gary,
answer that
for our
question.
next meeting,
It's an LLC.
let's get a
Why
map,
isn't it city money?
because there's a big yellow box, they've drawn a border around land that they don't own, which is gonna confuse people, so if we could just have an updated map of what they do own, and,
Well, that-
especially if the junior boxes kind of are on someone else's land.
And if it has been in their hands and in their property schematics all these years, then nobody is actually paying taxes
Oh.
for just holding this piece of property without a name, without a.
Oh,
Do
no,
you know
no, they
who
are.
owns
Somebody
it?
must.
There's an
Yeah, I'm
owner.
gonna show you who the owner is
Somebody
in just a
must
second.
It will
Somebody
be
ha-
revealed.
Somebody
shortly.
has to own it.
Yes, yeah, I believe the Cash True Value, that LLC, my understanding is they own that property adjacent to them as well.
That would make sense to me. That would.
So if we just kind of zoom in here.
They got rid of the shack and the golf.
So this is 296 Flanders LLC.
Oh, sure.
We can write to them.
So just note on this map, this is the parcel that they do not have an option on. So when that plan, the master plan goes forward with that road coming right through here, you know, this landowner is going to benefit substantially, in my opinion, because the infrastructure is already been provided to the site.
There
you
were
know.
negotiations for that purchase once upon a time, but they fell through perhaps for that reason.
Well, I think it just from 2000 to 2008, so much time elapsed that the option expired. My understanding is that KGI is working with the abutter, and I think the arrangement is changing because he's now seeing the value in what could be.
Gary, we keep on talking about Costco being there. Costco, have they signed an agreement, contract that, yes, we are coming?
I cannot confirm. I'd have to
But
ask the
no, I
developer.
think we're starting to miss points here. The 400 units originally asked for, back in the day, our leaders, for reasons that they thought were good and consistent with the POCD, kept it down to 280 units with a balance of commercial. The 400 is resurfaced with the reason being this is how we're going to fund that road over to the Costco, and Costco's not coming if we don't fund that road.
Right.
So it's almost like,
Catch-22.
am I saying that wrong?
And I think
Well,
Costco has also indicated they're not coming unless they see that the exits are completed. So you add those two things together and.
Well, and I'll add one more layer, right?
When are they
That
showing?
parcel right there with the junior box stores is the reason that the 4 ramps would need to be built according to DOT. And as it turns out, the developer doesn't have control of that parcel. So why would the DOT build those roads?
They'd only build them upon the build out of that commercial.
So if somebody comes in,
And somebody has to.
buys
have an
that,
answer.
builds junior box stores,
That-
then DOT picks up the phone.
And says, "Yep, let's build this."
And yet, we're not actively pursuing somebody buying that? Are we, as a town, showing that to developers, or?
No, but they're
Uh,
stating it.
I suspect KGI is. I mean, I'm,
Yeah, I would think.
you know, again, but I think, you know, Frank's point is that to fund this road, they're saying they need another 120 units.
Right.
Now understand that they put $1 million of infrastructure into East Society Road. In addition to the water and sewer and gas infrastructure that went in. And I think, as Mr. Harris pointed out to me on the phone, that in most towns, that work would have been bonded by the municipality if this is what the town wants. In this case, it was borne by the developer. So, you know, when you do the math on the total acreage versus 400 units, you're at roughly 3.5 units per acre. It's approximately equivalent to the R10, R12 zoning district, to put that into perspective in terms of densities.
Well, we've gone over a lot here tonight. I do think we could go on.